explode into a big, big cacophony of moths any minute now. Good thing you're watching the Vomitorium, or else you wouldn't know this. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Good luck in the apocalypse!
Okie dokie dokie dokie. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I am your host, The Middle, and I'm just here to talk about whatever I want. I almost slipped into saying joining me as my co-host, even though I haven't said that in quite a while. He's still in the other room. He just doesn't really have time to be on here these days. But yes, I'm here to talk about whatever is important to me today. Sorry, it's been quite a few days since I've been on here specifically, though I did stream sometime this week if you're into video games. But it's been a busy early week. But we made it. It's halfway through. It's hump day. We're here. We're here to talk about stuff. I just got off of monitor duty, which is on Matt Reese's channel not that long before this, and had just enough time to squeeze in 4 tacos before hopping on here. So at least my belly is, I don't know, properly full, but full enough to matter. That's all that counts. Where while we were on monitor duty, we probably read the worst Batman comic I've ever experienced. Personally, there's probably worse. There are probably worse, but I'm here to cleanse my palate from experiencing 1991's Batman: The Holy Terror and talk about literally anything else. But if you're into that kind of stuff, you can go find that on Matthew D. Reese's channel. Today we're going to talk about a couple things, including what I thought about the most recent patch of Genshin Impact, as I spent the last couple days playing that. That's not going to be the first thing up, don't worry. That'll be later in the show. You know, if that's not your cup of tea, you don't have to leave just yet. But we will be talking about that. And it was long. But before, one of the things I want to talk about is market collaborations between major companies. Now, one of the things that's always bothered me, and it's been bothering more and more, McDonald's used to be the brand that you consider collaborations with. Hey, Kefnet. Only one more week till Arknight's Enfield. Woo! I will definitely have to try that once it's available. I didn't get into any of the betas. But anyway, one of the things, McDonald's is the brand you think about when you think about a food brand that is going to collaborate with some other type of brand. Period. Actually, Genshin's a good example. I think, was it last year? There was a collaboration between McDonald's and Genshin here in the United States where you could go and get your Genshin meal. Can't remember everybody who's on it. I think, was it Kazuha? Somebody was on the packaging. I can't remember who. But you could get a bunch of in-game stuff by buying the Genshin meal and putting the code in. Overall, though, there haven't been very good collaborations between the Western McDonald's and a bunch of other stuff. Used to get toys for any property there, used to have big events. Now, not so much. It's a rarity. As opposed to, say, over in Japan. I've been looking at the marketing for the Japanese McDonald's, and I have to constantly ask myself, what the heck is North America, specifically USA McDonald's, even doing? Because they're not marketing themselves anywhere near as good as the Japanese McDonald's is. They would rather put a bunch of ugly people in commercials. Miserable people, too. They're not even really selling happiness anymore. They want their McDonald's to look like very drab, brutalist coffee houses instead of fun places that you want to bring your family to eat. And when I go and I look over at the advertisements, especially on social media, for McDonald's Japan and the collabs that they do, I am insanely jealous. 2 of the most recent ones that have been catching my eye is that they're doing a huge Dragon Quest, like, anniversary collaboration where you can get special cups that look like they have a slime's face on it. You can get toys and stuff involving Dragon Quest because, you know, Japan is actually very proud of Dragon Quest as a franchise, even if it's not as popular elsewhere as it is locally. It all looks really cool. The photos, the advertisements, everything they're doing in conjunction with it looks really neat. I have been sharing a lot of it too, because I like it more than the stuff I've been seeing from my home country. Also, at the same time, they're doing a collaboration with, what's it called? Project Alice, I believe, is the name of Toho's manufacturer. But they've been doing a Toho collab, where they did a black pepper kind of like parody of the popular Bad Apple. That was pretty cool, among a few other things. These are things I like. I really like Toho myself. And I don't want them necessarily doing Japanese things here. I would actually prefer the American McDonald's to be doing American collabs. Let's make everything unique to the area they are. And there are a lot of American properties that you could be doing, a lot of advertisements and collabs. But the last time I remember us getting anything out of McDonald's that actually celebrated the culture of America, and it's not like I'm not paying attention, I pay attention to this stuff pretty acutely, was several years ago. Maybe this was 2020-ish, maybe 2019, where they did a Peanuts collaboration. And you could get toys with Snoopy and the entire gang. I actually went to McDonald's to get one because I happen to really like the Peanuts, as I should. It's classic Americana. All Americans should appreciate the Peanuts to some level. And I wanted to get my little Snoopy on his house ready to fight the Red Baron. And I went and got it. But they didn't even make a really big deal out of it. The advertisements weren't going wild. I didn't even find out about it until I went to my McDonald's to look what are they collaborating with right now. Which I usually did. I would want to see if there's anything cool. They didn't have any cool boxes, any cool cups, or anything extra. It was literally just the little Snoopy toy. That's all you got. And people are wondering why companies like McDonald's are losing people. Is it still the most profitable restaurant in the United States? Yes. Yes. But there are many, many less people eating there than there used to be. And in all respect, the number of people eating at McDonald's, if they were a smart business, should only ever go up. Frequency should go down. Take care of your health. Do not eat that stuff every single day. Though, if you exercise, if you actually manage your diet, you don't overeat, you actually could eat it every day. Most people can't, though. They eat way bigger portions than they should, and that's the bigger issue than anything. But maybe your frequency, maybe your meal load should decrease, but more people should want to be eating there if they were doing their job right. There's not many things as Americana as McDonald's. One of the only things that rivals it is Coca-Cola, which they also sell at McDonald's. I've been thinking about this a lot, especially because I was watching or rewatching The Devil is a Part-Timer with Marsupial Gamer because he's never seen it. And we're always just looking for stuff to watch. I don't mind rewatching things. And I was thinking about every single time I see McDonald's in like a manga or an anime. I see it in all of the Rumiko Takahashi stuff. You see it in almost any random slice of life story that you read that takes place in the real world in modern times. Because McDonald's is impactful. It's everywhere. But it also almost seems like, because it's a little bit of a taste of America in other countries, that sometimes other countries happen to like it more than we do. And I don't even think like the consumers. I think the other countries' branches of McDonald's like themselves more than the American branch of McDonald's does. I had a little hope for them maybe, was it last year, I think, where they started doing the Ronald McDonald Land ads, like they were going back there into the retro vibes of the old McDonald's. The stuff that actually sold people on it in the first place. And that lasted for, I think, all of 3 months. I don't know if it lasted longer than that. And it's almost to the point that I want to give up on them. At least until things drastically change. Their food's still good. I mean, it's as good as it's ever been. In some cases, better. I remember when they started making the quarter pounder to order, maybe, what was it? 12 years ago, I think maybe that was when that happens. Off the top of my head, I'm probably wrong with the date, but it feels like it was 12 years ago. The quarter pounder was better than it had ever been. Logically, because they're making it to order, so that large stack of meat, which will get cold really fast and doesn't sell as frequently as the smaller burgers, doesn't have a chance to get cold. So their food's still good. It's just that their spirit, their culture is just gone. It's awful. Like, I don't, other than I'm going to be full from eating a fairly inexpensive meal compared to other places, and McDonald's hasn't been like that for a while either, though they're trying to get back to it. Other than that vibes, I don't have a lot of positive feelings about it these days. McDonald's should be a treat. It should be something you look forward to getting. If we had... Excuse me. Ooh. Bit of taco seasoning was stuck in the back of my throat. If we had large themed collabs on the scale of what they're doing with Dragon Quest right now, does not have to be something like Dragon Quest. It can be Americana. It should be Americana. It could be, I don't know, what's still running? SpongeBob SquarePants is still running, I guess, in some form. They've got spin-offs, but I think the Bikini Bottom still exists in the property. You could do a large SpongeBob collaboration where you have SpongeBob cups and SpongeBob everything. I'm sure McDonald's could easily secure that. Heck, you could do it with the upcoming Mario movie. The Mario Galaxy should have everything. It shouldn't just be a toy. Every single thing should be decked out to it like they do with Monopoly, but more so. If they do that, then you get people more excited to going to your establishment. That was just a little mini rant I wanted to have today. I get extremely jealous every single time I see the McDonald's Japan ads and whatever they're currently doing. Every single time. So, now that we're into it, Genshin. So, there was the new Genshin patch. I played it. I spent a good chunk of last night and this afternoon playing it. I had to do some other things. That's not all I did, but it took a lot of my time because the patches are getting longer. I like the story of Nodcry, but it's starting to feel like Honkai Star Rail with how long the patch stories are. This is actually going to be one of my complaints about it. The gist of the story, without any spoilers, so I won't even say how it ends. But in the previous patch, the moon goddess Columbina, was it the previous patch or the patch before that? I'm actually trying to think now. But in the previous part of the Archon quest, that's probably the better way to put it, the moon goddess Columbina was trying to return to the moon because she was dying and felt that that was the only way to save her life. And one of the Fatui Harbingers, the doctor, tried to steal her authority as a moon goddess, and she fell into this weird gap between worlds known as the moon's reflection. That's where we left off, and in this one, we are trying to get her back. It jumps back and forth between the perspectives of the Traveler crew and the perspective of Columbina, and ultimately leads to a big boss fight with Dottore, the doctor. Good story. I'm not, it literally just went off yesterday, so that's the most you're going to get out of me for the specifics of the story. I don't necessarily want to spoil it for anyone yet, especially because it is something you can fast forward to right now if you just started the game. So I'll let people experience that for themselves. If it was something where you had to be keeping up to play, I'd have no problem spoiling it. Because somebody who started right now would have like 5 years of content they'd have to get through before even getting to this year 6 content. So, the good parts about it, there's a new area. The new area is really fun. The activities, are what I'm going to call it. The activities are really fun too. The trials, challenges, whatever you want to put into, they're definitely not puzzles because they're not very puzzling, but they're fun activities. They involve launching a lot of things. I've noticed there's a lot of launching in this one. It's not very good on controller, but I've always thought very poorly of the controller experience in Genshin Impact. There's just too many commands, and some things have to be macroed very poorly. And specifically when playing on the PlayStation, maybe it's more responsive when you use the controller on a computer, but playing on the PlayStation, sometimes you try to hit both buttons at the same time. You think you hit both buttons at the same time. The game didn't register it, and while you're trying to do one of the macros, you end up doing your character's skill instead, which can make you lose a challenge because you just lost like 2 seconds or something. Doesn't matter though. Eventually it'll work. The challenges are short. You can always start over again. It's not too much of an issue. It's just a minor gripe that I've never thought the controller experience of Genshin was good. I've had to remap my controls to make it even half decent. The default are awful. But the map is great. It's fun to run around. There's the new reputation things that you do that involve doing quests in those different areas. There's 3 areas, just like the first map. And you are basically reconstructing an area by doing it. One of them is even Nicole, the angel's house in the area. That's a really fun one. It's a little storyline. Again, won't spoil too much about it, but it is fun to help Nicole rebuild her house. I think that's all the good part. The new combat mechanics are kind of good too. The enemies in the area, there's new enemies. That's where the new combat mechanics come from. They're hardly new though. They're just kind of like modifications of mechanics that already exist in the game. But they're fun. Everything outside of the story, from a gameplay perspective, is fun. And I think this is starting to become a disparity in the experience for Genshin Impact. Because everything inside the story from a gameplay experience is not fun. The story's fun, but we have to remember that we're playing a video game, right? We're not watching an anime or a movie or any other type of motion picture. I'll even make some criticisms that it's weaker than a visual novel because a visual novel at least still has player agency in it. But everything outside of the story is really fun and exciting. There is a new kind of like corruption mechanic in certain areas that is very similar to the sheer cold mechanic. That's why I said it's kind of just a rework of what's already there. But it's still pretty cool. It makes you have to think and contemplate how you're going to navigate the area. You need to go light some lanterns so that you have places to stop, in the same way that you had to light some torches back in Dragonspine so you could warm up. It's a very similar experience. It's Dragonspine 2, except the game actually rewards you by giving you more permanent posts to get rid of the weird, it's like ether corruption. I don't know. I guess abyssal corruption, because that's what's always been in the game. You could be afflicted by abyssal corruption. So that part's really cool. To the story, though. I enjoyed the story. For a story. Like, as it was, I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was a good Not finale, because there's still going to be a little bit extra, like a little post this in the Nagrai Archon quest, but because this is where the big boss was, you could say it's the finale. It's a really good finale to what we've been doing in Nagrai so far. Dottoro's a really good villain that makes you want to kick his teeth in. In fact, he might be the first good villain in Genshin Impact. I think Genshin Impact's been suffering from a lack of good villainry. It's been a weakness in the story. Doesn't mean that the story was bad before, but it has been one of the weaker points to it. Kicking Zandique's teeth in is also really fun because he deserves it. I like that. It takes a long time to get there. The way they divided the story up this time is the biggest issue I have with this. They give you a warning beforehand. That's not to say that they don't warn us, but in previous parts of the game, going back to the beginning, you'd probably get like what? 5 quests per act, I think, is usually how it's either 3 or 5 quests. I can't remember exactly how it is. But the act would be divided into smaller quests. The quests would have some of their own scenes to it. You'd get stopping points that are naturally built into the flow of the game where you could consider whether you want to go do something else, whether you want to turn the game off. It's always a really important note to understand that you need to be able to turn a game off at some point, or if you want to just go talk to the next person in the quest line and start the chain again. Nodcry hasn't been that way. The last part of the Archon quest, Acts 5 and 6, before this, you entered immersive storytelling mode, and you were just in the act until the act was over. You could exit out, and it would save your place, sort of, but if you had already started watching a scene, or even if you were walking around and there was a scene just before that, you were probably going to have to watch the scene again from the beginning. And I guess that's kind of fine. You just pick one that you don't mind rewatching a part again, whatever. But it makes it hard to find a stopping point. But at least Act 5 and 6 had a stopping point between Acts 5 and 6. When Act 5 ended, you could stop. You didn't have to try to find a place you felt comfortable stopping. They just gave you one right there. This one didn't work that way. So, Acts 7 and 8. Once you finished Act 7, still the same where they just played the whole act straight. Once you finished Act 7, it just kept rolling right into Act 8. You see the pop-up that Act 7 is finished. The next scene starts. You're still in it. Did not give you a stopping point in between acts. And you're just aware that Act 8 has already started. I did not like that. I did not like that at all. I don't think that's a real good way for pacing the game, especially since already you're not doing much during the story. You are mostly watching the story in Genshin Impact. There were a few good, fun parts. There is a defense of Nasha Town. That's pretty fun. There's a raid on Dottoro's lab. That's also pretty fun. There's a few fun parts. But that's all it is. It's a few. I think gameplay-wise, if you were to cut out all of the cinematics and scenes, all the dialogue, probably a grand total of somewhere between half an hour to 45 minutes of actual gameplay. And that's including the final boss fight, which I have some gripes about too. While the story itself was somewhere between maybe 5 to 6 hours. So more so, it's almost like watching a show, right? That's if the average TV show, non-prime time, non-like HBO big thing, the average TV show is about 20 minutes. All right, it'll be 20 minutes plus commercials. Then this patch was like 18 episodes of a show that you watched. You just watched it, more or less. Sometimes you walked from place to place. So it felt like a walking simulator. I don't think that's good from a gameplay perspective, from the fact that we're playing a video game. So while I'm going to rate the actual story really high, like this might be an 8 or an 8.5, as far as story, which is really high on my scale. I tend to scale on a curve where 5 is an average. I think this is probably the best story that Genshin has had. Prior to this was Fontaine, and I only gave that one maybe a 7, grading on a bell curve. The other ones were lower than that, above average, but not by too much, right? Still good, not bad, not even average. This might be the best story. From a game perspective, though, if I'm actually looking at this as a video game where I'm a player who needs to do things, who needs to have agency, that needs to have fun, I'd probably rate this patch maybe like a 5.5. And that's how much that brings it down. And I think part of it is the Genshin team understanding their player base in the same way that maybe the Star Rail team is understanding their player base and so on and so forth. Not a lot of the players, still a decent chunk, but a huge majority of the players are here for maybe just the story at this point. These are the people who come back only for the story. They don't really play in between. They're the people who throw the most money at them because they don't grind all of the in-game currency that exists, and they'll throw money when they want to play the new story and they want the character that's on banner. That is a huge chunk of their audience. So they need to make sure that the story experience is very easy, very relaxed and casual for them to get through, which means there can't really be anything challenging for them to do in it. And they'll save all of the actual gameplay, all of the activities, all of the combat for outside. You do not explore during the story because it's in that immersive mode. All your exploration is done outside of the Archon quest. That is just optional stuff for you to do when you feel like it. During the Archon quest, they just whisk you from place to place, which I do wish they would whisk you from place to place a little more, but that's so I can do things at those places, not so I could just watch more scenes. Exploration is a really big part of Genshin Impact. It's probably the most important part of Genshin Impact. It's the thing that makes it different from not just their game, but most games, right? It is an open world exploration game. Exploration in any game like that should be the most important thing you do. Exploration, in a way, should be intertwined into the story of the game. The story should lead you along a path to where you get all the waypoints, or at least all the common ones that you need for getting places. It's actually really cool to have out-of-the-way waypoints that you have to go and unlock optionally your own. That makes the game more fun. The last 2 story patches of the Archon quest had no exploration in the story whatsoever. And this is why I'm starting to believe that it's because the people who actually want gameplay, who play Genshin, are just far more tolerable and are willing to put up with things than probably the people who aren't. That is my personal belief. The people who just want story probably wouldn't play if they had to do more work. But the people who want to do more work are probably more fine with just sitting through the story at times. I want a marriage of story and gameplay as much as possible. In that respect, this is why I don't like the boss fight for Dottore. It's the same reason why I did not like the boss fight for Rekar Solneri, Rerir. I actually think they're good boss fights. I think they have good mechanics in them, potentially. I think Dottore will be a really fun boss fight as a weekly. If I go and fight him as my weekly boss fight to get maps, I think it'll be fun there. I don't know how he's going to work, but I could see how in multiplayer he could be really fun, because there are parts where he spirits away a single member of the team. That could be really, really fun in multiplayer, right? Where somebody's off just having to do a mini game on their own to get back to everybody. As a story boss fight, as a main boss fight in a video game, really bad. And it echoes my entire negative opinion of the story boss fights in Genshin's competitor Wuthering Waves. I don't think you can die in this boss fight. It didn't feel like I could lose the boss fight at all. In fact, this was my big complaint when I was fighting Ruir. It didn't feel like my inputs mattered at all. It felt like this boss fight could have just been a cinematic that I sat here and watched, which there was already plenty of cinematics in the boss fight that broke it up. I'm fine with that. That's not a complaint. Games have done that forever. I think it's fine to use cinematics to offset phases, to build up hype and tension. That's all fine. That's not a complaint. But it is a complaint where it feels like the inputs I'm doing in a boss fight do not measurably matter at all. It didn't feel like I could die. Didn't feel like I could lose the fight. And in this one, there are, like I said, parts where a character might get spirited away. This is a little bit of a spoiler for the mechanics of the boss fight. Still won't spoil the ending or the story, but a little bit of a spoiler for the mechanics. A character gets spirited away, and it takes your perspective to that character. It's the only one there. You have to play trial characters for this boss fight. And they have to fight like a shadow clone of Dottore. The problem was, and I tried it both ways to see with the different characters, it didn't matter if I defeated the shadow clone in that other world, or if the shadow clone defeated me, it still progressed the same way equally afterwards. The character is still removed from battle, whether they win or lose. Does not matter who loses HP in that fight, until eventually it's only the Traveler left. I think that's bad game design. I think the ideas are cool. I think if you're going to start removing people from my team, you don't need to give me a scripted death for them to where what I do doesn't matter. You can literally just remove them from the team at different points to a different phase. You don't need to do that. It just feels like you're wasting my time as a player if what I do doesn't matter. And basically everything, I think, in that fight doesn't matter until the conclusion of the fight, the final stage, which is mostly just the Traveler versus him. And then, at the very end, the only thing that matters is waiting for your ult to come off of cooldown. And eventually, you kill him. Which also means I don't think that matters, because I don't think I could die in that part either. I think I was being healed. Just like in the rare fight, there was somebody off screen, off field, that was healing you to where you could not lose against the Rehir of Solneri. So, from a story gameplay perspective, both of the last big boss fights that we've had suck. From a weekly perspective, I'll give you my opinion after I go and do the Trounce domain. Probably fun. I see the potential. I see the ideas they're working with. But I also see the fact that they have to tie their hands behind their own back because they can't let you lose in the story. You used to be able to. I remember going through the story. I think I was completely underbuilt and underleveled the first time I fought the first big boss, right? And not Dvalin. I don't think Dvalin's the first big boss, even though technically he's the first Trounce domain, but Dvalin's easy. I think you probably lose against Dvalin, though. But against Tartaglia, I think I actually died against Tartaglia the first time because I just went in woefully underprepared. I had, like, jumped world levels without actually raising my level, my character levels. So I just, like, died. And then I went back and kicked his butt. But you could die back then. You could lose and have to, like, start the fight over from scratch like you would in any other video game that makes you earn beating it. I believe it was the same with, what was Rosalind's name? In Inazuma. I'm forgetting her Fatui name. I don't know why I'm spacing it, but the butterfly lady, Moth to a Flame. I've fought her like 50 times now because I had to level up Raiden Shogun, and I am spacing so much. She stole Venti's Gnosis at the beginning of the game. Anyway, You could you lose that fight the first time. I think you could even still lose up to fighting Scaramouche. It's possible to lose, because I think I remember a friend losing, even though I beat it for them. It's not a hard boss fight. And most of those fights actually make you use your teams. You don't do that anymore. You just use trial characters, which I'm fine with. I think if these games are going to make you play a story, they should give you full trial teams to play through the story. Not necessarily for a challenge sake, though it would be cool to have more of a challenge if you choose to use the whole trial teams. They should let you change what the team is. You pulled these other characters, you should get to use them. What's the point of a gacha game otherwise? A lot of cases, you spent money for the characters. The trial characters should be optional characters in your team loadout when you start like a domain or story sequence. That's how I think it should be. But if somebody is a part of the story, you should just get to use them at that time, even if you don't own them. It's ridiculous that you can't. Breaks your immersion. I do think between the two of only letting you play characters you've pulled or only letting you use the trial, this is the most immersive way to play the story, so I get that. You know, if I could only choose between one or the other, this is probably the one I would choose. The trial characters aren't very good, but honestly, outside of a few challenges, characters don't have to be very good to beat anything in Genshin Impact. It is not a hard game. The combat's a little complicated at times, knowing when to actually execute certain directions of elemental reactions. But aside from that, it starts to become second nature and you don't even think about it. Like, anybody can do the combat in Genshin. It just takes a little bit of practice. And you probably got all of that practice through the 1.x content. My big problem, though, is, again, agency. What is the point of doing something in a video game if you cannot lose, right? What is the point of doing something in a video game if your input does not matter? Why play a video game instead of reading a comic or watching a show or any other type of media? Player agency is the thing that substantially makes video games, or just games in general, if we want to talk about tabletop games, also do a lot of the same emulating of storytelling through gameplay before video games did. What is the point of gameplay if it is not player agency? To have the players do things, have the players, even if it's not decisions that change the world, their actions have to progress the story. If our only action is walk here, hit button, watch scene, sometimes not even hit button, actually. Sometimes it's just walk here and you get sucked into a scene. Happens a lot. I hate it when it happens. Talking about enjoying the exploration of Nodcry, it's been committing this cardinal sin of open world games a little bit more than any other region did prior to this. And it's the sin of taking control of my camera while I'm exploring. You'll walk up to something and the game will decide you need to look at this. You can still move. You're not like stuck in place. You're not safe. Things can attack you while it happens. But Pipe Mom will be like, oh, look, there's a lighthouse there. We should go and explore it. And your camera just adjusts position, and that's what you're looking at now, no matter what you were doing before that, right? This happens a lot in Nodcry. It also happened in the previous zone, is happening quite a bit in this zone. You have cases where you're exploring, and then you just get sucked into a world quest. Prior to this, you talk to somebody, and that person started a world quest. This time, you walk within 50 feet of them, and now you're in a world quest. That's not an exaggeration. I think a couple of them, it is within like 50 feet of them. It's not even something remotely close, like 20 feet. And you're here, doing a thing until the scene's over. Some of them throw you right into battle. I didn't mind that as much. One of them had you helping some Lightkeepers as the Wild Hunt attacked. But I didn't ask to be randomly dragged into a world quest as I'm just trying to get a waypoint. Modern Genshin is at odds with the fact that it's an open world game. I don't know if the devs are tired of it being an open world game. I don't think that's the case because they still put a lot of really fun stuff in the open world exploration wise. Or if they think the players are tired of the open world game. And that might be the case. You hear open world burnout a lot, right? Where a lot of people just, they don't want to play an open world game again. And I don't think it's because they don't like open world games, because they wouldn't have played it in the first place. And it's not even that the game they're already playing, they don't want to do the open world exploration in. Most of the time when people say open world burnout, it's, I've already got a game I explore. I don't want to play 2 or 3 more games where I have to explore the entire map. It's not that the game that they're playing is burning them out. More often than not, I'm sure it is the case with some people. It's that the industry is burning them out by giving them more and more games. It's like, can we just do something else? Can we do something that's not open world? Which, to give credit, Hoyo's other games are not open world. Genshin's the only one. But they're making Genshin itself less open world. They're on islands now, so while there's still a lot of exploration, there is less exploration than the fuller areas that they had before. And the exploration is less mandatory than it was before. In fact, while the exploration's fun, if you use the implements given to you in game, you should already have your Nodcry treasure compass by this point. If you've been keeping up with the game, you would have gotten it back in the first patch of Nodcry. It takes you very little exploration. I think, what was it? 10% maybe? Somewhere between 10 to 20% in an area, a zone, before you get access to the treasure compass. That's like 1 quest and 5 chests or something like that before you get access to your compass. And once you have that, exploration almost becomes a non-issue. It becomes nothing. Nothing feels earned because the treasure compass will now just tell you where literally everything is. I think the treasure compass is a cool tool for cleaning up an area. There's been a few areas that it's like I've gotten 90-something%. And it's like, okay, I need a treasure compass now. It used to be locked behind reputation, which technically these are, but every zone has its own reputation now. But it used to be locked behind the weekly reputation. I'm glad they're not doing the weekly reputation system for Nodcry, but I feel like it should have, well, technically they are. You have to do Columbina quests every week. That's how you're going to get your glider. But I'm kind of glad they're not doing that for literally everything. But I feel like they overcorrected. They made it too easy to get everything. And now nothing feels like you've earned it. Literally nothing in Nodcry feels like you've earned it at all. I think that's the feeling that I've come out of it. I would love to praise this patch more. There's a lot of stuff that I really, really, really like about it. But aside from the story conclusion, which I did not have to play, nothing feels like I earned it. Nothing feels like what I did mattered. And in a video game, everything you do should feel like it mattered. Like you would not be able to progress if you didn't do the thing. Ugh. Thinking about it even more too. I would probably not use the treasure compass. If the game didn't incentivize you to use it so much that it almost feels like you're getting punished for not using it in the current area. I feel like I don't have to use the treasure compass in previous areas unless I am getting to that point where I'm missing just a tiny few things that are hard to get. Because they're old. And there's nothing being withheld from me. Whenever you're playing a new area, in the event log, there is a certain amount of primo gems that you get for hitting up to 80% exploration in that area before that event's over, like within the time of the patch. I think it usually lasts the entirety of the patch. So there'll be 20. No, or was it not 20? They'll give you an instant one just for doing something. Then it'll be 40, 60, and 80%. And once you hit 80%, you've gotten all of the exploration bonuses that you get in the event. Because of that, you are heavily incentivized to use your treasure compass, the new one that just gives you everything, before the event is over. Which then makes the exploration feel even less worth it. You had to rush it. The whole point of an open world game is to take your time, soak in the scenery, stumble upon cool things, maybe puzzles or whatever, and really just like immerse yourself in the world. That's not the way this game is built anymore. This game is being built, and I started to feel this, I think probably around the time that I got to the Sumeru Desert section, which a lot of people complain about it, but for just being too big and nothing to do. But it also felt really streamlined when I was there. And this is where the streamlining started. The game, Fontaine, was entirely this. Everything, like all of the open world challenges and activities in Fontaine led you to the next open world challenge and activity. It's become a theme park. Genshin is more and more becoming a theme park over time that holds your hand and gives you a guided tour through the new area. I enjoyed the rainforest of Sumeru. I enjoyed exploring Liyue. I enjoyed Inazuma and Mondstadt, but Mondstadt there's just not much to it. And that one was also still kind of a guided tour because they were showing you the ropes of the game and you can only go to Storm Terror's lair after you've hit certain story parts, whatever. But I enjoyed Liyue, Inazuma, and the rainforest of Sumeru probably a lot more exploration-wise than anything that happened after that point. I enjoyed the desert too. I don't think the desert's holding your hand too much. That's just where I saw it starting. But I have fun whipping around the desert. But you see, like, the movement mechanics of each region are starting to become less and less impactful, and more this is just how you move in the region, period. Which I think also takes away from the exploration. They should be added bonuses, sometimes needed for challenges, sometimes alternative ways of getting around. Maybe they'll show you a secret you couldn't get without using the movement in that area, but it should be focused on mechanics first and not giving you a guided tour through the world. I think that's my issue. Aside from that, still really good story. That's the best I could say. And fun character. I mean, Columbina's fun to play. They let you play all the fun characters in the story for the few parts that you actually get to play them. So, that's also a positive, I guess. I'm still trying to pull her. She's guaranteed, so I'm going to get her eventually. It's just a matter of when I get her. But yeah, that's about it. That's my as spoiler-free as possible review of the current Genshin Impact patch. Mostly positive, feeling-wise, but a lot of really negative complaints from a I'm playing a video game perspective. Yep. Hopefully the stuff going forward is better. Lantern Right's right around the corner. There'll be tons of fun games and stuff to do with that. It almost feels like the in-between patches are built more for the people who like gameplay than the actual Archon quests now. I really enjoyed the Winter Festival patch that we had in between. That was really cool. There was a lot of fun games to do. A lot of fun events in general. So, I'm expecting next patch will probably have more of what I'm looking for. That's why there's no point necessarily dropping Genshin as a game, even if you get stuff like this that kind of disappoint you. Because you could temporarily drop it, you don't have to play every patch. You could just come back. There's a lot of people who do that. You'll be missing a lot of rewards. I mean, you could limit yourself to just your dailies, but you don't have to do everything. Anyhow, that's the show. Those are all my thoughts on everything I was thinking about today. Thank you for watching. We will be back here same time, same place, tomorrow at 12 Eastern, 11 Central, you know, yada, 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 going down. Middle of the night. And we'll have a good time, so get that link, share it with your friends, and I'll see you then.